Adam Jude of the Seattle Times says the Mariners' non-tender decisions might have doubled the amount of money they have to spend this winter. Yikes, if that's true. We'll give you our thoughts on that and more coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, November 25th, 2024. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to be opening up the mailbag like we do here every Monday and answer some of your Mariners questions. We'll also be spinning the wheel for our top 5 Tuesday topics. But before we do all that, shout out to our title sponsor today, FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. All you have to do is click the link in the description of this episode. Kicking us off here on Mailbag Monday is Jeff with a question that a lot of you asked some variation of. So we're going to use his question to essentially address all of those questions that you guys submitted. Is $16 million all the Mariners have for the offseason, or is that being overblown? So there were questions like, are they screwed if they only have $16 million or something around that number? What do they do if they only have that much money? All that good stuff. So we'll get into all that. But if you missed it, after the Mariners decided to non-tender Josh Rojas, Austin Voth, and then officially non-tendered / DFA'd JT Chargois, they saved about $8 million in projected salary. And Adam Jude of the Seattle Times tweeted that that might have doubled what they have to spend this winter. So do we think that's the case, or is that being overblown? The answer is, I don't know. We don't know. And I don't think Jude himself knows that for a fact either. What's your read on the situation, Colby?
Yeah, I mean, context is pretty important here because, like, let's say hypothetically they do have $16 million. And keep in mind the tweet says about doubled projected payroll space. So right there's already two clues that are, let's say, like, this is an estimate, this is a guess, right? Projection, about doubled. But I think the important thing there is, like, okay, payroll space based on what? Like what they're currently committed to already in 2025, what they ended last season on, because right now they're below the number they were last year. And somewhat ironically, around $16 million would put them just about where they finished last year, which is about 147. So, I think about 16 million right now probably gets them a little bit over 150.
Because I believe they're at 132.1.
Right.
Because from our math, when we were doing the offseason plan, adding Randy Arozarena, Cal Raleigh, George Kirby, and Logan Gilbert's projected ARB salaries on top of the guaranteed salaries, that includes, Mitch Haniger and the buyout for Jorge Polanco, would bring them to 128. They added 4.1 in projected ARB again with Thornton, Spire, and Saucedo. Am I missing anyone? I think that's everyone, right? Mm-hmm. So, that would essentially bring them to around 132.1.
Right. And there are, I don't know, 6 to 7 guys who are pre-ARB who are going to make this opening day roster. They're going to make, about $750,000 each, give or take. So, they're probably right around, when you factor in all those guys, 138-ish, give or take. So yeah, if it's 16 million over that, then their budget's 155-ish. If it's 16 million over what the final year payroll was last year, which is 147 or something like that, then that would put them at around 163. So even if this number is accurate, or even without knowing kind of like what the starting point is, that we can pretty confidently say that the budget looks like it's probably going to be somewhere between 155 and 165, which is kind of the number we've been operating with all year, or all winter. At least you and I have, mostly on that 160 line of things.
When we did the offseason plan, yeah.
Right. So here's the deal. Jude doesn't know for sure. There's a 0% chance the Seattle Mariners have told him like, hey, this is our budget for this upcoming year. Didn't happen. Not happening. There's literally no reason for the Mariners to divulge that information with anybody, let alone beat reporters. So Jude is estimating, he's guessing. He has his own projection that he's using for payroll. And maybe he's right. I mean, I'm not saying he's
it's
definitely
our far-fetched considering how the Mariners operate.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it kind of matters, what's their starting point? Is it $16 million, $15 million, $20 million over where they finished last year, over where they started last year, over where they currently are? Like, those are things that matter here. And again, it's worth noting, Jude says nearly doubles or almost doubles or roughly doubles. Like it, we're kind of parsing here. And then projected payroll. That is Adam Jude's projected payroll. That is maybe the Seattle Times projected payroll. It's not the Mariners projected payroll. So Jude could be right, but we cannot sit here and tell you like this is absolutely 100% the fact, and you should treat it as the gospel.
Well, and we haven't heard anything.
No,
personally. So we're kind of in the dark on this, and we have all the information that you're privy to as well here. So.
Right.
If you can't definitively say it, then we can't definitively say that it's, one thing or the other.
Right. And again, you start using terms like roughly doubled, projected payroll. Sure. Yeah. Then Jude comes out later and says like, well, that's just like my guess. And when you're the Mariners, you invite this type of, freak out and criticism, even if you haven't done anything wrong yet. Because for all we know, the Mariners are going to spend $170 million this winter. They're not. But you know what I mean? Like, you don't get the benefit of the doubt when you've behaved the way you have for the last few off seasons. And so, I think it's totally reasonable guess from Jude, but that's really what it is. It's an educated guess.
Yeah.
And we don't know if he's right or he's wrong. But depending on what they're talking about, like what the Mariners are stating as their budget or whatever, it really does matter a little bit if it's, is it 15 to 20 million off of last year's final number, off of last year's starting number off of what they are now? That changes things. They can go from 150 to, 165, depending on where the starting point is. And so, it's up in the air. So it's a little bit overblown. It is, but it's also not like hogwash. No, don't listen to this. They have so much more money that no. So
they might have less. Who knows?
Right. So again, it's like no shade at Jude. I don't think that he's making this up, but I think it's much more of an educated guess than it is like I know what it is. I've been told this is what it is.
Sure.
I think the freak out is a little bit overblown, but also again, you invite this on yourself every winter, so of course it is.
To answer some of the other variations of this question about the $16 million or, roughly $16 million. Are they screwed if that's all they have? What do they do if that's all they have? How do they attack this offseason?
They're not screwed. They make it a lot harder on themselves. But that's all they have. And it sounds like they're already planning on spending 5 to 8 million of it on either Turner or Santana. Right. Then they're going to have to get aggressive on the pre-ARB guys or the ARB 1 guys, which means they're going to have to be aggressive in trading with their prospects. So, again, you're not screwed.
And how possible is that in this market?
I think it's more possible than people think, especially if you're the only team that's out there throwing around your top prospects. But it definitely narrows your margin of error, which again sucks. But you can absolutely have a good quality off season, only spending $15-16 million, just a lot harder. So
significantly,
and you have to be willing to take more chances that traditionally this front office hasn't been too comfortable taking. So they're going to have to change how they operate a little bit here. If that is in fact all they have, but no, they're not screwed. It's just, again, they made things unnecessarily more difficult on the,
they just have a really tight window to fit.
Yep.
So we'll see how they try and maneuver that. If that is the case, hopefully they do have more money to spend than that projection. But we'll see. All right, we're going to answer more of your questions here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off site-wide during their cyber sale at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code MLB. With 5 generations of experience, Omaha Steaks consistently delivers the world's best steak experience, and their gifting experts have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide during the cyber sale at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code MLB and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code MLB. Minimum purchase may apply. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Mailbag Monday, and we'll be getting back into your questions here in just a moment. But hey, if you haven't seen yet or you need a reminder, we're running a giveaway right now. Colby, tell the listeners here what they can win. All that good stuff.
Sure. You can win some of my autographed cards, and you can make Ty dig deep and pull something out of his wallet to give you guys for the first time, like ever.
Sounds kind of sus, but sure.
Sure. It's so it's like most of our giveaways. It is a tiered giveaway. The amount of prizes we give out is dependent on how many subscribers we have. So how do you enter this contest, you may ask? Simple. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and just leave a comment on any of the videos until we give these away.
Do it right now.
Right now, as we're recording, we're about 69 short of our next plateau.
It's a good number.
Which is the point where Ty has to give something away as well. We're already going to be giving away this Mitch Haniger autograph card. I know you can't see that very well because of the glare. There you go. Somebody's going to win this Andres Munoz card autographed. 69 more subs. Somebody will win this Mike Cameron autograph card and a $25 gift certificate from Simply Seattle. If we get to 12.4K,
take it. Take my wallet. Take it.
If we get to 12.4K, somebody's going to walk away with this Victor Robles numbered autograph card. Very pretty card. We get to 12.5K in the next week, which I don't think you guys can do it personally because you're weak. But if we do
get a challenge, perhaps?
No, I mean, a challenge is something you might lose. I'm going to win this running away.
Right.
But if by some miracle you guys figure it out and get it together, at 12.5K, this is a Cal Raleigh autographed baseball card, and Ty will give you a $50 Simply Seattle gift certificate to get you some nice swag for 2025 season. Or you're a Seahawks fan, or a Kraken fan,
Huskies,
or a Sonics fan, Huskies. I think they even have one or two Coug things. Gross. But
not a great weekend.
Apple Cup champions, though.
Yeah.
So, if you want to enter, very simple. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below on this video or any of the videos we've released in the last week and up until next week. And that's all you have to do. And you're entered. We'll randomly select a video, and then we'll randomly select a comment from that video. Flattery will get you nowhere. And terms and conditions.
But we do appreciate it.
We do, but it's truly a random draw, guys. Terms and conditions are going to be in the description down below. Giveaway entries for the giveaway will end on December 1st. So there you go.
I love the comments that are just like very obviously enthusiastic for the sake of the giveaway. Like
sure.
Last Top 5 Tuesday, like these are amazing lists, Ty and Colby. It's like no,
we know they're not.
They're fine. They're fine.
Like sometimes we come up with some fire lists. Those were not it. We're just it is what it is. But,
it was cool. Yeah, it was
fun. Appreciate it. But again, flattery gets you nowhere. You could literally, comment, exclamation point, period,
insults will definitely not get you anywhere.
Obviously, we're not throwing up insults up on the screen here. So, if you decide to, take unnecessary shots at us or
disqualified.
Yeah. Although honestly, funny enough, sure. Yeah. Why not? But
if you can make me laugh, then sure. Yeah.
But again, random guys, it truly is randomized. have a random number generator that picks the episode for me. And then I put the episode, I put the URL of the episode into this website, and it just spits out a comment, and that's who wins. It's truly random. But if you comment every day on all the videos, you have that much more chance of winning one of these prizes. So again, just subscribe, leave a comment. Terms and conditions in the description down below.
Campbell wants to know, of the players non-tendered, who interests you the most? I'd imagine the former closers are high up on that list. Kyle Finnegan was a surprise non-tender for the Nationals.
Sure. I think, he's probably going to want $8 million, give or take.
Yeah.
I don't know if Finnegan's a guy I'd give $8 million to.
Sure.
Not that he's not worth it. It's just, again, like if I'm working on a limited budget, I'd rather go trade for, because I can get like an elite type of closer. Like I can get Ryan Helsley for $6 million. I can get Devin Williams for $8 million. I'd rather go spend on those guys than, a guy.
Now
like
you also
Finnegan.
have to spend prospects to go.
I'd still rather do that though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like Finnegan at a certain price. Yeah, sure. That makes sense. Romano, again, probably like Finnegan, too much money. Also he had elbow issues, I think, this last year. But at the right price, sure. Yeah. Jordan Romano, would be a nice add. Not too many super surprises in the non-tender market. One name that did get non-tender that I'm pretty interested in, you'd have to stash him because he's going to miss most, if not all, of 2025. So it'd have to be a 2-year deal, kind of like they did with Ken Giles a few years ago. Patrick Sandoval of the Angels. I really like him. He's got pretty good stuff. He's a lefty. He's 28 years old. He's got a 3-win season under his belt. It's a couple of years ago, but he's dealt with some injuries. But I really like Patrick Sandoval. I really think there's more there. And, getting a guy from the Angels to the Mariners could do wonders for his career. So, yeah, the closers are certainly up there. Patrick Sandoval is up there. That's a stash. And then, depending on the cost, like if I can get Brennan Rodgers for $1.5 million, like fine, whatever. If I can get Josh Rojas back for $1.5 million, like fine, whatever. But yeah, it's mostly relief pitchers and then Patrick Sandoval for me.
Tyler wants to know, in your opinions, does the non-tendering of Josh Rojas open up a spot for Cole Young to be on the opening day roster at second base? Do you think the Mariners have this in mind for the moment? Last we heard from Justin Hollander at the GM meetings was that Young's going to start the year at AAA. I don't think that's changed because I assume that they were already planning on non-tendering Rojas at the time. So, no, I think right now, just with the guys that they have in tow, it's Dylan Moore, it's Ryan Bliss. Those guys are under consideration to be the opening day second baseman.
Also tells me that they almost certainly going to get either a second baseman or a third baseman this winter. And so, no, I don't think that Cole Young is I don't think the Mariners' plan is for Cole Young to be the opening day second baseman. No, the Rojas thing doesn't make me think they've changed their mind on that.
Yeah, no. All right, we are going to answer more of your questions here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you once again by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Mailbag Monday. We're answering your Mariners questions. We got this one from BT. Wants to know, what do you think the front office has identified in the guys they added at the deadline that allowed them to produce in Seattle? Is there some metric that differentiates Robles and Turner from Winker and Garver, or did they just finally hit on acquisitions they would have made regardless?
Yeah, I looked into this a bit. I didn't find anything specifically in the metrics or in the data that says like, this is why these guys hit, this is why these guys didn't. I will say this, the one thing that I did find pretty consistently is Turner, Arozarena, Rayleigh, they all hit at T-Mobile Park. Like they had a history of hitting at T-Mobile Park, whereas Garver was 0 for 33. And again, these are all microscopic sample sizes, so it's like,
yeah.
I mean, like I think Luke
Didn't
Rayleigh
Rayleigh
had,
literally, like
16 plate
one.
appearances.
Oh, I
like
thought he had like 1 or 2.
No,
to
he
be
played
honest.
a 3-game series here last year, and that was it. Like, so he had like
Right.
12 to 15 plate appearances. Randy Arozarena had like, I don't know, 50, 55. Like, these are all very small sample sizes, and they're not.
I imagine Turner didn't have many.
I mean, no, not really. But Boston, Toronto, and then the couple with LA. But they all hit at T-Mobile Park. That was the thing. Robles didn't have, like, he had less than Turner even at T-Mobile Park, so hard to say there. And again, because the sample sizes are so small, I'm not comfortable saying like, oh yeah, you just go get guys who have hit at T-Mobile Park and they'll hit at T-Mobile Park. Like, no, it's not that easy.
Doesn't matter the sample size, even if they have 1 plate appearance, they have a hit there. They can hit.
Like, yeah, they can hit there. Yeah, clearly. And it's like, no, that's not it. But like, that's the only thing that I saw when because I did try to figure this out, because the Mariners seem to imply that like, we think we figured something out here to help identify the right players who can hit at this ballpark. And again, Arozarena hit at this ballpark. Robles hit at this ballpark. Turner hit at this ballpark. They were 3 for 3 this summer. Rayleigh was the last move they made or one of the last moves they made in the offseason, and he hit at this ballpark. Polanco didn't though. So like, it's one of Haniger had a longer track record of hitting at T-Mobile Park, and he was much better at T-Mobile Park than he was anywhere else this year. So I don't know if they've identified something specifically in the numbers. Maybe it's just something scouting wise. I really doubt it's like, hey, let's just put a ton of stock in, 18 plate appearances and determine that as whether or not these guys can hit T-Mobile. But that's literally the only thing I found when I looked, is that the guys who'd hit at T-Mobile this year had a track record, some of them literally just a handful of games of hitting at T-Mobile. Yeah. So I didn't notice anything in exit velos. I didn't, because the Mariners typically like guys with exit velos. You know who doesn't have high exit velos? Justin Turner, and he hit great. Victor Robles, and he hit great here. So I couldn't find anything in swing profile, and I mean, all 3 of those guys are right-handed, and they all hit at T-Mobile Park before. But that was really all I could find.
These iterations of Justin Turner and Victor Robles are a bit more contact oriented than, like a Mitch Garver, for example.
Sure. But Randy Arozarena and Luke Rayleigh strike out quite a bit. So it's not like they just went for contact. You know what I mean? So like, they're all different enough. Like, half of them will have similarities and you think you have something, and then you look at the other half and you're like, nope, that's not it. So I think I think they've identified something either scouting wise, or it could just be that they got lucky on those 3 guys. Like, I really doubt that the Mariners looked at it.
Maybe some of it is just changing the messaging to their hitters.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't, if they have found something that is going to help them determine who's likely to hit at T-Mobile and who isn't, I don't know what it is. I haven't found it. And I don't know if I ever will, because I don't have as much data as they do. But they seem to think, or they seem to imply at least, that they figured something out, in the middle of last year, and they're comfortable going forward with the same methodology. So we'll see if they're right or wrong, but I haven't figured it out.
Next question here from Mariner Moose 79. What is the reason the Mariners didn't play Luke Rayleigh much at the beginning of the season? Was it they didn't trust him, an injury, or something behind the scenes? What I had heard for those first couple of weeks of the season before he started playing regularly, which was about that
April 20th.
Rockies. Yeah, it was that Rockies series, right? Was they were trying to make a tweak. I don't know what that tweak was, but there was something that they identified in spring training and they were trying to work on with him.
Right. Luke Rayleigh himself said, yeah, I sucked. Like, I wouldn't play me either. So when you're trying to work through something, it's a really difficult situation, because you have to play in games for the tweak to actually take effect. But also, if the tweak doesn't take effect quickly enough, you have a black hole in your lineup. And so, it's kind of this balancing act.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of a balancing act that's pretty tough. I'm typically of the teaching or discourse or whatever you want to call it, that you play guys through that stuff. Like, they have to be out there regularly so they can see this work, and they have to trust in all that stuff. But the Mariners kind of tried to, just kind of let it sit. And it's different for every player, because if Rayleigh goes out there and he gets, 100 plate appearances in that first couple of weeks, instead of 15, 20, and he's just terrible. His confidence might be shot for the entire season. He might abandon hope and all that stuff. So I think it was just that they had a tweak they were working on. Remember, Rayleigh was terrible in spring training too. So they had a tweak they were working on. He wasn't working. He wasn't hitting right at the time yet. And so they were just trying to maximize their wins early in the year. And so I think it's just a combination of they were trying to tweak something, change something, and it just took longer for that to take hold than they were expecting or hoping it would. And they just didn't want to risk, him resorting back to whatever it was they were trying to fix when he struggled as much as he did.
Super Soul 8075 wants to know, what do you guys think of the Mariners signing Junior Marte and Adonis Medina to minor league deals? Could they be part of the bullpen next year? Would they fit better as depth pieces? Well, as we say every year when the Mariners bring in guys like this on minor league deals, you never know. They might be throwing high leverage innings for the Mariners at some point next year. We'll see what kinds of, tweaks and ideas they have for these guys. There's some interesting data on Medina's changeup that I know has been making the rounds on social media. Not really sure what they see in Marte. I know it's an interesting sinker, but he's one of those guys that throws hard and can't really locate. Those guys are a dime a dozen typically, and the Mariners have taken shots on a lot of those guys and really haven't found much with that kind of profile.
Sure.
But yeah.
It's the pile, right? And it's like last year where it's like, oh, look, we have Snyder and Mauricio Jovera. Was that his name?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about him.
And Joey Crable and Ty Butchery. And it's like, yeah, only one of those guys hit, but you hit big on that one guy in Colin Snyder. And it really helped. And that's really what you're doing here, right? You're collecting names, you're collecting arms, you're throwing them in the mix, and then you're hoping one of them hits. And if more than one hits, fantastic. But you're really hoping one of these guys hits. And so they are most definitely like depth pieces. They sign minor league deals so they can start the year in Tacoma. I mean, they might have opt-outs at the end of spring training. That's possible as well. Most do, but I don't know if Medina and Marte. Is it Marte?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if they have like the cachet of like, if I don't make the big league roster, I'm definitely going to opt out and all that stuff. So
sure,
we'll see. Right now, they're definitely depth pieces. But again, the Mariners are probably going to sign a couple more guys like this, throw them into the pile. And in the spring, they can keep a couple of them around in AAA, a couple will leave, and they will just kind of churn through until they find the one that fits. So they're depth pieces like Colin Snyder. But again, Colin Snyder hit. And they would have had another one in Tyson Miller if they didn't, trade him. They usually find one or two of these guys, but you're just looking for different profiles, different type of arms. And you're just going to throw them all at the kitchen sink, and we'll probably see them quite a bit early in spring training. And they're depth, major league experience depth that you stash in AAA. And maybe one of them is Drew Steckenrider or Colin Snyder or Gabe Spire was one of these guys, like
Paul Sewald.
Paul Sewald, Taylor Saucedo. Like the Mariners typically get one or two guys like this to produce for them in the middle of the year, and that's really all they're looking for.
Last question of the day comes from M's to the Moon, aka at Colby's _burner.
I think you're just putting him on here just because of the at now.
Rank these Ichiro moments by favorite to least. Ichiro's 3,000th hit, breaking the single season hits record at 262 hits. The throw to nail Terrence Long of the A's at third his rookie year. And the inside the park home run from the 2007 All-Star Game. Quite a diverse list of options here.
3,000th hit is last. That didn't happen with the Mariners. I don't care.
Yeah, I didn't watch it live.
Yeah.
All these other things I watched live.
Sure. So that's last. I would say 2 and 3 are pretty interchangeable for me. It's the hit record or the inside the park home run. The hit record was great, but it came at the end of a terrible season. So that kind of mires it a little bit. The inside the park home run was funny because the ball kicked away from Ken Griffey Jr. So that was pretty fun. Honestly, I would throw Ichiro's infield single of the 2001 All-Star Game on this list and say That was off of Randy Johnson. So
yeah,
some Mariner on Mariner crime in the All-Star games for Ichiro. I'd probably go the Inside the Park 3 because, I mean, it's an All-Star game. Who cares? The hit record, probably 2, and then, the throw to the nail Terrence Long. That's
something out of Star Wars.
I mean, it's my favorite Dave Niehaus call. First and foremost, it's hard to separate the play from the call for me.
Yeah,
and also to me, that was like the moment that like Ichiro like let the baseball world know like I'm real, I'm legitimate, I'm here to play, and you have to deal with me. Because that was a statement type of throw, and so that's always the moment that I had to look back and I'm like, that's when you knew Ichiro was going to be something special. Yeah, the Inside the Park home run wouldn't even been in my top like 5 Ichiro moments because like I still think of like the walk off against Mariano. That was great. I think of the infield single off of Randy Johnson. I think that was great. I think about
how much I love that All-Star game.
Yeah, it's the last great All-Star game.
Yeah,
we get the Tommy Lasorda thing. We get A-Rod pushing Cal Ripken to shortstop. Ripken hits a home run in his last it is like peak All-Star game. Is that right there? It doesn't get better
amazing,
than that. And it just so happened to happen in Seattle. Fantastic.
I need to get that tape. I obviously I taped that. It's somewhere in a storage unit in New Mexico. I need to get that tape I can watch that back.
Side note: can we stop with this whole like the All-Star game has to go to all the ballparks before it comes back? The All-Star game belongs in like 10 places max, and Seattle is one of them. Yeah. Seattle should have an All-Star game every decade.
I agree. Like even 2023, it was awesome.
The All-Star game doesn't need to go to Houston.
The Garcia and the Rosarena catches, the come to Seattle chant for Ohtani and all that. Yeah, it was great.
The All-Star game, no offense, doesn't need to go to Cleveland. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Seattle, New York, Boston, LA, San Francisco,
And by the way, I hear Chicago, some of you saying like you can just watch it on YouTube. No, I want to watch my VHS tape, my personal VHS recording of the All-Star game, of the 2001 All-Star game.
Yeah.
100%.
So, anyways, I imagine we'll probably be talking about Ichiro a little bit this winter. He'll be inducted in the Hall of Fame here in a couple weeks. Usually middle of January is when they make those announcements. We'll probably have like maybe even a whole episode of just Ichiro, but it'll be fun. Stroll down memory lane. Ichiro was I got into baseball like in the early 2001 was like the first year I actually watched baseball. And obviously as a 10-year-old, Ichiro's the best player on that team. Pretty important. Never my favorite player, but obviously, Ichiro played a pretty big impact on
my camera was my favorite player.
Mine was Edgar.
On those teams.
So,
yeah.
Mine was Edgar, but Ichiro certainly right there. Definitely right there. Yeah. So, some good commercials for Ichiro too.
Your list basically the same as mine of the options that we were given. All right, so let's spin the wheel for our top 5 Tuesday topics. You get the helm this week, Colby. So let's get into that first. All right, so we only have 4 options here on the helm for Colby. Third base options, one of the original ideas that we put on this wheel. It's still standing after Josh Rojas has been non-tendered.
We've talked about all of them already, but okay.
Will this be the week? Let's see. Let's find out.
I'm rooting for Mariners trades of all time.
And it is top 5 trades in Mariners history. There you go. That'll be a fun one for you to do.
Ichiro for Danny Farquhar.
And Hector Noesi.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so top 5 trades, Mariners history, coming your way from Colby tomorrow. Let's see what I get. Got quite a few options on here. Quite a few new options on here. That's very close. Man, that's top 5 Mariners things I own. All right, so we're gonna do a little show and tell tomorrow,
which is nothing.
Well, there you have it. Top 5 trades in Mariners history, which is right up Colby's alley, and top 5 Mariners things I own. So a little show and tell on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Mariners. So that's going to go great for those of you that just listen on podcast platforms. Just realize that you'll have to use your imagination.
I'll try to take up 27 of the 30 minutes.
Sure. All right. That is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG. Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.